The stars beyond the viewport of the Seraphis shimmered like distant embers in a cold, endless sea. Commander Lurak stood motionless on the elevated platform of the command deck, his four-fingered hands clasped tightly behind his back. His emerald skin reflected the low glow of navigation lights, but his mind was elsewhere focused, calculating, wary. The Cathari had seen a dozen threats in his time along the outer reaches, but nothing had ever come from Sector D13. Nothing was supposed to. It was designated uninhabitable on all official charts. It had a name, two spoken only. In whispers. Earth. The silence shattered. A sharp chirp from the long-range conqueror jolted the bridge into alertness. "Commander," Tech Officer Dren called, his voice filled with barely contained excitement. "We've picked up a signal. Priority 1 designation." Lurak's eyes narrowed. "From where?" Dren hesitated, double-checking his console. "Sector D13. The exact coordinates match the last known location of Earth." The temperature on the bridge seemed to drop. "That's impossible," Lurak said, voice low, like it might summon something ancient if spoken too loud. Earth was classified lifeless after the collapse. No transmissions in 2 centuries. No atmospheric integrity. No survivors. "The data doesn't lie, sir," Dren said, tapping the controls. "Frequency is old archaic, really. Pre-warp. Era modulation. Encoding structure matches Terran patterns last documented during the second solar pulse. And sir," Lurak turned slowly. "What?" "The source is moving." The commander's jaw clenched. Across the bridge, the rest of the crew had stopped moving, watching silently as Dren brought the waveform up on the main screen. Jagged, imperfect, organic, alive. A moment later, the translation module chirped. Text unfurled across the display. "This is a wideband humanitarian beacon. We are en route. Do not engage. Do not flee. Do not fear. Prepare to be saved." The room was silent again. Then came the voice. It was cracked, filtered through ancient static and radiation interference, but undeniably human. A female voice, calm, resolute. It repeated the same phrase, again and again like a mantra echoing through centuries. "We are coming. Do not run. Do not fear. Prepare to be saved." Dren leaned forward in wonder. "They're alive. "No," Lurak said coldly, stepping toward the console. "They're supposed to be extinct." "Do you understand what that means?" "That world, that thing they evolved on, it eats life. It breeds monsters. But they're transmitting a rescue beacon, Commander. That's not a war cry. That's a warning, maybe, or a promise." Lurak stared at the transmission, unease crawling up his spine. "Or its bait. And every species that hears it will walk willingly into the arms of a predator we locked away in our nightmares." "Sir," one of the navigators said, her voice trembling, "should we alert the Council?" Lurak nodded slowly, eyes fixed on the pulsing signal. "Yes, open a secure channel. This is no longer a scout mission. It's a containment priority." The AI chirped again. "Update. Signal confirmed to originate from mobile structure. Hull composition, unknown alloys. Power signature, exceeds. Class 9 warp criteria. Signal source, human origin confirmed." The bridge lights dimmed slightly as if the Seraphis itself held its breath. Dren looked over at his commander. "If they really survived, what kind of world did they have to build to get off that planet? What kind of species does that?" Lurak didn't answer. He simply stared into the void toward the dead world that wasn't so dead after all. Signal continued to echo in the chamber, wrapping around them like prophecy. "We are coming. Do not run. Do not fear. Prepare to be saved." The council chambers had not echoed with such thunderous noise in centuries. Dozens of species from across the galactic core filled the circular chamber, their voices overlapping in an orchestra of panic. Crystalline beings pulsed with fluctuating colors of fear. Gas-formed entities trembled in their containment fields. Winged delegates hovered in midair, their delicate frames twitching. Holofeeds streamed across the upper dome, all showing the same thing, a low-resolution signal repeating. On loop, a female human voice saying words that shouldn't exist. We are coming. Do not run. Do not fear. Prepare to be saved. Council Director Thaler slammed his staff of authority into the marble dais. The metallic clang rang out like a lightning strike. Silence fell like a shroud. Order, Thaler growled, his heavy voice echoing through the chamber's stone. We will not descend into chaos over ghost stories and rumors. Delegate Miravel, a slender aquatic being from the ether rim, floated forward from her hydration pod. Her voice echoed with a liquid resonance. This is no rumor, Director. The signal is real. Sector D13 was my people's outer research colony. We lost contact 2 days ago. No signs of attack. No distress. Just nothing. Then this signal. Across the chamber, another voice rose. Our mining outpost on Telluron V went silent this morning, said the delegate from the Thrun Syndicate. No debris, no broadcasts. Empty. And we found this. A hologram flickered to life. A massive hangar bay abandoned. Rows of tools perfectly in place. Personal belongings untouched. Not a single sign of struggle. Then the camera shifted to the floor. The delegates leaned in. Burned into the reinforced metal was a symbol, an ancient Terran rescue emblem. 2 interlocking hands encircled by flame. And underneath, in large human script, "You are safe now." The council chamber exploded again. Madness. They're abducting colonies. They're invading. They survived extinction. They shouldn't exist. Enough. Director Thaler bellowed, slamming his staff again. We must not jump to conclusions. There is no verified evidence these humans are acting aggressively. They're moving, a soft voice interjected. The attention turned to the young liaison standing behind the diplomatic podium. A mere observer, not a council member. His name was Sarantel, a scholar. From the Archive Moon. They've left Earth. They've built ships larger than anything in our records. And they are heading toward the spiral arm. Thaler narrowed his eyes. And what makes you so sure? Saran pressed a control panel. A star map appeared, blinking red points lit up along ancient jump paths. They're using the old lanes. He whispered. Routes no one has used in centuries. Routes from our abandoned colonies, our failed terraforming worlds. They're following the graveyards of our mistakes. A deathly hush followed. Delegate Miravel's voice wavered. But why? What did they want with our forgotten systems? The room stayed silent until Saran gave the answer no one wanted to say aloud. Because we left people behind. A shudder rippled through the room. Some denied it, others looked away. Yet they all knew it was true. In the centuries of expansion, not every colony had survived. And not everyone had been saved. Thaler's voice turned cold. So now the monsters come cloaked as saviors? They rise from a death world to fix our failures? They rise, Saran repeated softly, because they had to. Their planet tried to kill them every day. They had no counsel. No help. They learned to save themselves because no one else ever would. Suddenly, every screen in the chamber turned white, a new signal. This time, not audio, a live feed. A dark silhouette appeared on the screen, human, armored, helmet off. A woman with silver-streaked hair, eyes like weathered stone, and a voice that felt like thunder wrapped in calm. My name is Commander Alara Stone, of the Earth Fleet Rescue Carrier Perseverance. We come with no weapons drawn, no armies. Only Hands extended. Some delegates flinched. Others leaned forward. We know your stars are dying. We've watched the patterns. We've tracked the instability. 3 systems will collapse within the cycle. Your sensors won't detect it in time. We use different elements. We see what you don't, but it's not too late. She paused. The entire galaxy, it seemed, held its breath. We do not seek war. We seek to prevent extinction. If that frightens you, I understand. But run if you must. We will still come. We always do. Her image faded. The council was left staring at the empty space she'd occupied. As though burned by the truth, Director Thaler trembled with rage. They are manipulating us, using compassion as a weapon. No, whispered Maravel. They are using it as a message. Prepare our defense fleets, Thaler barked. Seal our borders. Lock the warp gates. And if they come anyway? Sarin asked. They won't get past us. But across the stars, ships the size of cities slipped through old, abandoned lanes. They made no threats. They carried no banners, and yet their presence rattled the galaxy more than any invasion ever could, because deep inside, every species in that chamber knew something terrifying. The Deathworlders weren't coming to conquer. They were coming because no one else would. The research vessel Elion Drift floated alone in the shadow of a dying star dot. It wasn't supposed to be here. Its mission had been to monitor neutron radiation levels near a long-forgotten gas giant in Sector Z7. A standard survey dull, routine, the kind that earned junior officers a few stripes and a permanent record of quiet service. But now, the crew stood frozen around the observation bay, eyes glued to the impossible. What are we looking at? Captain Varel whispered, her wings shivering against her CARPAC. No one answered at first. Out beyond the nebula's edge, where starlight flickered through dusty hydrogen clouds, something moved slow, deliberate, massive. Dren, the ships. Xenotech officer and unofficial Terran enthusiast finally spoke. That's a hull. That's metal. That's a ship. But no ship had ever looked like this. It wasn't just big, it was monumental. Angular and functional, like it had been designed for war but repurposed for survival. Its surface bore no visible weapon ports. No aesthetic flourishes like council ships. Just reinforced panels, curved armor plating, and a repeating stripe of red and white across its middle symbols. No one had seen in centuries. The captain's mandibles clicked. Why aren't they hailing us? As if the ship had heard her, a signal pinned across their communication band. Simple, clear, unmistakably alien, and yet undeniably familiar. To the crew of the Elion Drift, do not fear. You are not in danger. You are not alone. The bridge went silent. The human language, once feared, now felt like prophecy. Then came a second voice, female, calm, but edged with power. This is Commander Alara Stone of the Earth Fleet Carrier Perseverance. This is your formal invitation to re-establish contact with the Terran Collective. Please respond. Captain Viral stood there, unable to speak. Dren's hands flew over the console. She's real. This isn't pre-recorded. It's two-way. Real-time translation matched the old Terran databanks. Sir, they're talking to us. Us? Viral echoed faintly. Why now? But she already knew the answer. Just like everyone in the council suspected but refused to admit. The humans had always been listening. Now, they were speaking. A trembling claw reached toward the console. This is Captain Viral of the Council exploration vessel Elion Drift. We acknowledge your presence. We confirm peaceful intent. Request clarification. There was a pause. For a moment, Viral thought the signal had dropped. Then, the screen blinked. A face appeared. She had skin like bronze tempered by fire, short-cropped hair touched with gray, and sharp eyes that scanned the council crew not with fear, but with purpose. Commander Stone didn't smile. She didn't need to. You are near a destabilizing system. We have evidence the star in your region will enter collapse within 47 hours. Your vessel lacks the shielding to survive the wavefront. Silence. Viral's voice cracked. How? How do you know that? Stone's expression did not change. Because we've already evacuated 4 colonies in the adjacent band. We've been watching this system for 14 cycles. You haven't. You said, evacuation? Viral leaned forward. You're here to help? Yes, Stone replied. You were not the target of this mission. But now that you are here, we will not let you die. That's not how we operate. Dren whispered like a child seeing a myth made real. They're rescuers. On screen, Ilara turned slightly. More of the bridge behind her came into view, dozens of humans in environmental suits guiding alien species through pressure-controlled corridors. Gas-form beings floated in protected tanks. Crystalline species hummed softly in UV-lit bays, all alive. All safe. You shouldn't be seeing this yet, Ilara said softly. But perhaps it's time. A second later, the entire screen expanded to show the fleet, hundreds of ships. Some shaped like flying citadels, others like mobile factories. And at the heart of them, the Hope-class dreadnoughts. Black, massive, and quiet as the void. Not warships, yet undeniably built to endure the worst the galaxy could throw at them. No. One had known what happened to Earth. Now the truth floated in front of them. They hadn't just survived, they had prepared. We detected multiple anomalies across the spiral arm, Ilara explained. Your sensors missed them because you scanned for solar decay using safe element filtration. We scan with lead core resonance arrays adapted for high death zones. You see survivable space. We see extinction events. You, Veralis. Voice cracked. You knew and waited? We watched, Stone said simply, and we built. Because when your council turned away from the Deathworld, we turned inward and found strength. Why didn't you tell us? The human commander leaned closer. Would you have believed us, or would you have fired first? Viral couldn't argue. Then came the final blow. You have 8 nearby colonies with life signs, Stone said. Their stars will go nova within the cycle. Your council hasn't told them. We have. The bridge reeled. You warned our colonies before we did? We already evacuated too. Viral collapsed into her chair. Ilara's eyes softened, just slightly. Captain, I understand this is overwhelming. But time is short. The question now isn't whether you'll trust us. It's whether you'll join us. With that, the screen faded, and in the space between words, between questions, between myths and machines' first contact, was made again, not with a hand of conquest, but with a hand extended in rescue. And this time, the galaxy would have no choice but to take it. The council delegation approached the Perseverance under escort, 5 ships flanking the massive Terran vessel like anxious shadows circling a black sun. From a distance, the human craft looked dormant. No lights, no movement, no external comms. But as the delegation's shuttle neared its docking bay, the truth became clear that the ship wasn't silent, that it was listening. Sensors tracked every movement with surgical precision. Temperature readings shifted in real time. Magnetic fields adjusted mid-flight to compensate for the gravity variance of the approaching ships. The Perseverance was not a ship. It was a living machine. Inside the shuttle, Delegate Marivelle adjusted. The fluid levels in her hydration chamber, her biogills fluttering with tension. Have we lost our minds? Whispered Counselor Grax, his spiked tail coiled tightly beneath his seat. We're about to board a Deathworlder ship. A vessel built by a species we once deemed too dangerous to observe. Meyervell's voice was calm, almost resigned. And yet we're here. Because if even a fraction of what they've shown us is real, we were wrong. The shuttle docked with a whisper-soft touch, despite the gravity differential. The airlock hissed open with a kind of reverence, revealing a wide corridor lined with reinforced alloy struts thicker than any the Council had ever approved for civilian use. They were met by Commander Alara Stone. No armor, no guards, no weapons. Just a simple uniform bearing the Terran insignia, 2 interlocking hands beneath a star in eclipse. "Welcome aboard the Perseverance," she said, her voice neither warm nor cold. "Follow me. There's much to show you in very little time." The delegation followed in silence, stepping into a world built for survival. The ceiling stretched high above them, arching like the bones of a great leviathan. Every surface was practical, rugged, yet designed with intention. Pipes carried coolant to atmosphere regulators large enough to freeze a mountain range or melt a glacier. Pressure seals pulsed in perfect rhythm along the walls. The air had a strange scent, sterile, metallic, but not unpleasant. They passed sealed doors labeled in dozens of languages, some familiar, others long believed extinct. "These are environmental sectors," Ilara explained as they walked. "Each one simulates a different planetary condition. We house evacuees from worlds your council abandoned. Some environments your people considered uninhabitable. We made them livable." They stopped at a transparent wall. Beyond it, an artificial tundra. Stretched out snow falling gently over a group of crystalline beings huddled in warming shelters. "My people," Grax whispered. "But how?" Ilara touched a panel. "The technology is adapted from Earth's polar survival domes. We use geothermal harnessing, redundant feedback systems, and adaptive thermoplastics. Your species needs controlled cold. We learned to build warmth from death." She led them through another door. This one opened into a vast chamber of hydroponic towers, glowing softly with light from artificial suns. "This is how we grow food for every species we've met," she said. "When your colonies failed, we scavenged the wreckage. We studied what they ate. We taught our machines to replicate it." Grax turned sharply. "Why?" Ilara met his eyes. "Because no one else did." They moved again. Into the heart of the Tava ship, the central command ring. A single massive screen showed the galaxy, littered with red markers. "Evacuation targets," Ilara said. "Worlds on the brink of collapse. We're tracking over 40 systems. 10 are critical." Meyervell spoke quietly. "And how many have you already saved?" Ilara's voice was soft. 16. And counting." The delegates stood in stunned silence. They had come expecting proof of a threat. They had found something else entirely. A rescue empire built in the shadows, forged in silence. "Why hide this?" Meyervell asked. "Why build all of this without telling us?" Ilara exhaled. For the first time, she looked tired. "Because we tried. Your council dismissed us. You treated Earth like a plague. Our signals were blocked. Our envoys were turned away or arrested. So we watched and waited and built." "And the signal?" Grax asked. "That haunting message? We sent it," Ilara said. "From an automated scout. We needed you to look. We needed you to see. But we knew that if we arrived waving banners, you'd see an invasion. So instead, we left breadcrumbs. Rescued a colony here, saved a freighter there. You called them miracles. They were just test runs. And now?" Meyervell asked. "Now," Ilara said, turning toward the galactic display, "the time for silence is over, because 3 stars will go nova in a week. 2 Council sectors are unprepared. We have ships en route already, but we'll need your help with population logistics and system clearance. You're asking us to cooperate, Grax said, his voice thick with disbelief. After everything? I'm not asking, Elara said gently. I'm inviting. We're not here to take control. We're here to stop the sky from falling. She stepped back from the display. A new line of text appeared. Galactic Emergency Evacuation Network ONLINE. The Council delegation stood there, struggling to reconcile what they'd seen. The Deathworlders hadn't built a fleet of war. They had built salvation. They hadn't come to conquer. They had come to catch the galaxy when it fell, and now standing at the center of a rescue vessel, bigger than most planets, they understood the truth. That would change the future of every living being. Earth hadn't died. It had evolved, and its children were ready to do the same for the rest of the stars. The Council emergency chamber flickered to life under Crimson Alert protocols. For the first time in recorded history, the Great Core Station orbital seat of the United Galactic Coalition shifted its lighting to deep red. This wasn't a drill, not a simulation. This was an Extinction-class event. And humanity had seen it coming first. Council Director Thaler stood at the center of the chamber, gripping his authority staff so tightly his joints creaked. Around him, the chamber's delegates argued and trembled, shouted and blamed. 3 stars, Delegate Cern of the KO hissed, his segmented arms curling in agitation. 3 stars within our influence, all destabilizing in the same galactic cycle. How did this go unnoticed? They told us, Miravel whispered. The humans told us days ago. They planted the evidence, shouted Grax. This could be a manufactured crisis. They evacuated 2 colonies before we confirmed the threat, Miravel snapped, her voice rippling through the hydration. Shell, they warned us. We refused to listen. A thunderous silence fell as Director Thaler activated the central display. There it was. Sector D-4. Star designation Solmaris Ket, a red supergiant nearing collapse, its surface already destabilizing into chaotic pulses of radiation. 6 inhabited planets, 3 major trade moons, and a mining station orbiting the inner ring. The system would begin gravitational collapse within the day, perhaps hours. All attempts at council-led evacuations had failed. The atmospheric conditions were deteriorating too rapidly. Shielding couldn't hold. Liftoff thrusters failed in the increased pressure. The last council ship barely made it out, leaving millions behind. But even as they watched, a second signal bloomed on the map. Fleet incoming. Human transponder codes. Perseverance, Unity, Sanctuary, and 16 smaller vessels had already broken into the system's edge, slipping through unstable gravitational currents like needle threaders in the storm. On the Council's private feed, Elara Stone's face appeared once more. We are initiating Protocol Solace, she said. Estimated time to collapse, 17 hours. We aim to extract up to 6 million residents. Requesting Council approval to assume orbital command grid. Grax slammed his fist on the console. You can't just. Thaler's voice was sharp and final. Granted, Grax stared in shock. You trust them? No, Thaler said coldly. But we have no one else. On the bridge of the Perseverance, alarms sang in a tone only human crews could interpret as routine. Core destabilization rising, reported Officer Malik. Radiation flare in Quadrant 3 inner orbit is unsafe for soft-hull vessels. Commander. Stone stood at the helm, her expression hard and still. Deploy inner sweep skiffs. Hardened arc ships take over loading at the equator belts. Start atmospheric sinking at once. Every second counts. Below them, the planet's surface groaned. Great. Fissures cracked through oceans and cities alike. Gravity wells bent light around them. And amidst it all life. Millions of civilians clinging to rooftops, calling to skies they no longer trusted. Human ships broke through the upper atmosphere in perfect V formations. Storms battered their hulls, but the designs tested in Earth's hurricane corridors. And molten deserts held steady. Rescue drones launched mid-flight, marking population clusters. Drop shuttles ignited engines meant to punch through volcanic winds. Inside Hope 9, a smaller evac ship, a human pilot guided his vessel into a landing zone littered with fire and rubble. Through smoke and seismic tremors, a group of civilians stared, expecting a monster from a Deathworld. Instead, they saw a young man in a reinforced suit step out and offer a hand. "I'm here for you. Let's go." On the Elion drift, now stationed at a safe orbit, Captain Viril watched the impossible unfold. She counted 40 ships, human ships coordinated with the precision of a neural hive, each move calibrated for efficiency. Number. Wasted energy, no panic. Just execution. 4 million evacuated and climbing, her officer reported. No casualties. Viril couldn't speak. Not because she was stunned, but because she felt shame. All those years. All that fear. All that arrogance. And now, a Deathworld species, the very one her textbooks labeled as doomed, was proving to be the only force in the galaxy capable of saving it. The clock ticked down. Inside Perseverance, Stone stood before the master control panel, her voice calm over open comms. "To all decks, this is Commander Stone. Final collapse window is imminent. We have 6 minutes to clear the remaining evacuees. Prioritize critical care transports and interspecies medical pods. No one gets left behind." Her crew answered with a single word: "Aye." Even as the star began to implode, spewing white-hot energy into space, the last evacuation ships launched. There. Hulls caught fire, but they did not break. They were built for this. Built on a world where fire was just another day of weather. As the final human ship cleared the collapsing atmosphere, the star behind them cracked and began its death scream. A supernova. Ignited. The blast wave surged outward. The Council's shielding ships braced, but the humans didn't hide behind them. The Perseverance turned its hull to the wavefront, absorbing the full brunt of the cosmic shock with plating designed in Earth's crushing ocean trenches. The light consumed everything. Then, silence. And slowly, the signals returned. Everyone survived. Back in the council chamber, a new silence. Rain. Not of fear, but of awe. On the screen, evacuation numbers scrolled. 5,998,120 saved. 0 lost. Director Thaler stood, slowly, and whispered words that echoed through every delegate's soul. They saved a star system. Maravel's voice followed, quiet but sure. They didn't come to conquer us. They came because we couldn't do this ourselves. Sarentel, watching from the public gallery, leaned forward and said what no one else dared. Maybe Deathworlders weren't nature's mistake. Maybe they're the galaxy's answer. And as the lights dimmed and new signals of trouble emerged across the star map, no one looked toward Earth with fear anymore. They looked with hope, because the Deathworlder fleet was on the move, and they had just rewritten what it meant to be strong. A dull orange haze blanketed the skies of Soren 3. The second of the 3 doomed star systems. Where once green jungles bloomed and crystalline rivers sang across glowing cliffs, now there was nothing but ash and the eerie hum of a dying planet. The star overhead, Talvax Beta, throbbed with unnatural pulses. Its surface peeled away in waves of radiation, spiraling into deep space. Like solar sirens announcing the end. The countdown had begun. 10 hours until core collapse. 3 million souls stranded. And only one fleet capable of reaching them. The Deathworlders. Aboard the Earth flagship Redemption, Captain Mary Thompson studied the topographical feed, her jaw locked tight. Unlike Solmarisket, this evacuation wouldn't be straightforward. Soren 3's surface was fragmenting. Magma veins surged across former trade cities. Winds hit speeds that would shatter most Council hulls. Worst of all, the orbital debris field had tripled in density. This planet, her lieutenant whispered, is committing suicide. Then we're the medics, Thompson replied. Get me all fireproof skiff teams on standby. If we wait another hour, we're losing thousands. Behind her, hundreds of crew members moved in perfect sync, working the command deck like a living nervous system. They had done this before, but never like this. The Council command vessel Dawning Horizon hovered at a safe distance. Its bridge was full of alien leaders who had once spoken about Earth with contempt. Now, they watched with breathless awe. Dozens of Deathworlder rescue ships tore into the planet's atmosphere, engines screaming through chaos. No formation, no safety net. Just raw, adaptive aggression, each pilot using instinct and improvisation to navigate a world falling apart beneath their feet. They're diving into lava zones, gasped the Nebula 7 delegate. Those regions are unapproachable. Said another, horrified. No, corrected Myravel, her voice reverent. They're unapproachable for us, but not for them. Inside drop skiff number 0417, pilot Jenna Rowe gripped her control sticks as heat warnings flashed red. A river of molten rock surged beneath her. Her landing site, a collapsed Sorani Medical Center, still held life. She could see them on thermal. Civilians trapped under steel, bodies too fragile to survive without environmental shielding. But the Council's evac ships had failed. Theirs would not. She flipped a switch. Shield override. Reroute coolant. Prepare for hot zone insertion. Ma'am, her AI stammered. This action will exceed pilot survivability thresholds. Jenna smiled grimly. I'm not here to survive. I'm here to rescue. Rescue. After rescue. Shuttle after shuttle. The human fleet burned with relentless purpose. Storms shredded their outer layers. Plasma geysers sent shockwaves through their formations. But still they moved unshaken. Some ships returned scorched black. Others returned missing pieces of hull. But none returned empty dot in the central medical bay of the Redemption species. Long thought incompatible with Earth biology now breathed stabilized air. Human doctors, trained in multi-environment trauma, moved between alien anatomy with fluid familiarity. I've got a Sorani here with collapsed lungs and zero resistance to magnetized atmospheres. Shouted a medic. Treat him like a polar spined. Aquatic, came the instant reply. Use a flexipod chamber. Draw from Earth's high-altitude, low-oxygen protocols. Another voice chimed in from a lab station, translating pain signals through thermal contrast. They can't vocalize watch for skin color shifts. Alien patients clutched the hands of humans as they were carried to safety hands scarred. By a world no one else dared live on dot, and still the clock ticked dot in orbit. Captain Thompson received the latest report from Commander Stone. 400,000 still on the surface. Ilara's voice crackled. But radiation flares have begun. Any ships without Earth-forged shielding can't make it back out. Thompson's eyes narrowed. Then we go full burn. No more caution. All evac ships into atmosphere. Every single one. This is our line. Understood, came the reply. Initiating Protocol Leviathan. Across the fleet, Earth's dreadnoughts' immense rescue arcs the size of cities lit their engines. The ground shook, the sky burned, and the final phase began. On the dawning horizon, Director Thaler watched as a Deathworlder dreadnought pierced the upper stratosphere, absorbing a direct hit from a collapsing ion field. They'll die in there, he whispered. "No," said Sarentel from behind him. "They'll endure. It's what they do." Another voice choked with disbelief rose. From the comm station, "Sir, they just launched a city-scale lifter platform from orbit. No shielding. It's cutting through storm sectors and volcanic fallout like it's designed for it." "It is," Marivelle said. "They call that ship the Furnace, built in the Arctic. Tested in Earth's lava tubes. We laughed at them once," said they. "Over-engineered everything. God's help us," Thaler breathed. "They were just building for us." With 1 hour left until collapse, the last civilians were loaded as the final arc ship ascended. The ground split beneath it, sending molten stone toward its exhaust vents. A silence fell across the council feeds. "Detonation imminent." The orbital AI reported. Everyone stared. The arc ship hesitated, then its engines roared double-tripled in output, it surged upward, flames clawing at its base, and it escaped. The planet behind it cracked into a fireball as Talvax Beta collapsed, in on itself, detonating with a brilliance that washed across a dozen systems. The light reached the redemption. But it didn't burn. Its hull held. They had done it. 3 million saved. 0 lost. Again. Back in council chambers. A new image appeared above the center platform. A simple message from Earth's Fleet Command. 1 system secured, 2 more to go. We will not stop. Life is not expendable. Hope is not optional. We are Deathworlders. We are your rescue. Not a single delegate spoke, because, for the first time in galactic history, no one had words strong enough to meet what the humans had just done. 1 year later, the Galactic Council chamber, once a place of posturing and panic, now thrummed with a different kind of tension, one thick with purpose and unity. Species that once spoke over one another now listened with reverence. Delegates, who had once refused to breathe the same air as a Terran, now stood beside them, not in fear, but in admiration. Above them floated the latest holographic display, a new galactic star chart. It glittered not with political boundaries or trade zones, but something new, something living. Rescue beacons, hundreds of them, spanning the spiral, arm stretching into the forgotten halo, reaching even into the broken wastes. Each one represented an active human-operated rescue station, staffed with mixed species teams trained in conditions previously believed unsurvivable. A once dead quadrant now shimmered like a lifeline. They had called it the Expanse. Now they called it the Shield. At the center of the council chamber stood Director Thaler, older now, quieter. The fire of arrogance in his eyes had cooled, replaced by something else. Humility. Flanking him was Commander Alara Stone, dressed not in military garb, but in the new uniform of the Galactic Emergency Accord, a coalition formed not by politics, but by survival. The galaxy had changed, and Earth had led the change. "Before we begin," Thaler said, voice steady, "we would like to honor those who made the impossible real. Earth Fleet, the Deathworlders, the saviors of Soren, Solmaris Ket, and Talvax Beta. Nearly 9 million. Lives saved, 0 lives lost." Applause, slow, deliberate, rippled through the chamber. Even the gas forms created a visual shimmer of respect, but Alara raised her hand. "We didn't come here for praise." The chamber quieted instantly. "We came to ask what comes next." She turned toward the council's central feed. With a flick of her hand, a new image emerged. A massive ship in orbit above Earth, the humanity's pride, part council design, part Earth engineering, part something entirely new. It had no weapons, it had no borders, but it had the most advanced life support systems in known space. It could enter volcanic worlds, liquid gas giants, even deep void black space zones where physics fractured. It was a ship not built to fight. It was built to answer, and behind it, Earth itself was changing. The once dreaded Deathworld had become the galaxy's rescue corps. Across the Australian outback, in former wastelands and hurricane craters, alien species trained in Earth's gravity. Students floated in high-pressure domes. Engineers walked into lava tubes and ice storms with confidence. 1,000 worlds had turned to Earth and asked, "Teach us." And Earth had said, "We will." Commander Stone stepped forward again. "We know what some of you still whisper," she said. "That we're anomalies, that we're outliers, that humans only survive because we're used to pain." She looked around, locking eyes with every species in the room. "But you're wrong. We survive because we made a choice, not to be ruled by pain, not to pass it on, but to outgrow it. We learned that strength isn't measured by who wins the fight, but by who runs toward the fire. We learned that the strongest beings are not the ones who endure alone, but the ones who refuse to let anyone face danger alone." She pressed a final button. The chamber darkened and then lit up with hundreds of images, from the rescues, from the aftermath. A crystalline child wrapped in a human's heat shield. A Sarani doctor learning from an Earth medic. A gas form floating through magnetic rings built just for their biology. A team of mixed-species workers building a dome on a toxic moon. Laughing in 10 languages. Hope it was real. It had a face. Now, a human face and 1,000 alien ones standing beside it. After the vote, it was unanimous. Earth was no longer labeled a Class 12 quarantine zone. It was named instead Galactic Category 0 Strategic. Origin for Universal Response and Protection. In other words, the heart of the shield. Later, on the bridge of the Humanity's Pride, Elara stood beside Captain Thompson and Counselor Myra-VEL. Outside the viewport, a new world shimmered on the edge of collapse, its sun flickering like a candle in a storm. But this time, they weren't scrambling. This time, the fleet was ready. Humans, Sarani, gas forms, crystalline beings. Pilots trained on Earth, medics who had studied under Deathworlders. Crews who could now walk into any apocalypse and carry life back out. "What do they call us now?" Myravel asked softly, watching the rescue ships prepare. Elara smiled. "They don't call us monsters anymore. They call us first responders." And far below, on Earth's once feared surface, a child of an alien refugee stood in the shadow of a new academy. Carved into the bones of an extinct volcano. Above the door, in every known language, was engraved a single line: "This world tried to kill us, so we learned to save others." In the end, it wasn't Earth's gravity, storms, or predators that made Deathworlders fear. It was their decision to rise anyway, to turn pain into power, and to make sure no one was ever left behind again.